In April 2025, I spent 3.5 days and 3 nights on one of England's most secluded wild escapes, Brownsea Island. By day, it buzzes with visitors and echoes with the sharp cries of black-headed gulls over the lagoon, but once the last boat leaves, the island transforms. The footpaths fall silent, the deer step softly from the undergrowth, and suddenly you're alone in a red squirrel's playground of twisted branches and pine needle trails. In this video, I'll take you into the quieter side of Brownsea, from daytime wildlife encounters to what it's really like to stay overnight on the island. I haven't seen another person. Wildlife lover's dream. If you're here to see what it's like to camp, I'll show you around the main campsite, and later I'll give you a tour of the raised tree tents and the bell tents tucked beneath the trees. This isn't just a camping vlog, it's a walk through history, nature, and the kind of peace you only find when the world leaves and the wild stays. Hello and welcome to this video and welcome to Brownsea Island. Brownsea Island is located in Poole Harbour, Dorset, UK and is accessible only by boat. For its size, it is one of the most biodiverse sites in England, featuring habitats including heathland, woodland, wetland, meadows and coastal areas. This unique combination of environments makes Brownsea Island a haven for a variety of wildlife. This morning I travelled up to Poole from Cornwall, parked at Torquay Hotel car park where the car can be left for over 24 hours and got the ferry across to Brownsea Island where I will be camping. My dad is here as well, we're doing a dad-daughter camping trip. I'm really excited. I visited Brownsea Island once before as a day visitor, but now I'm camping here, and the great thing about camping is that when the day visitors go home, whoever's staying on the island gets it to themselves, which means obviously there's a lot more chance of seeing wildlife. So as well as filming wildlife here and making videos about the wildlife that I see here, I thought that I would also do this more of a vlog style video in case you're curious about what it's like to camp here for wildlife watching or just to camp here. So I'll try to capture as much detail as possible about the visit here and the campsite here. One thing to know about camping here is that there isn't anywhere to charge your camera equipment. So I'm using a charging station that I've brought with me, but I'm not sure how long that will last for and how many times I'll be able to charge the batteries for my various devices. So we'll see how much footage I can get while I'm here. That's something worth noting. So last time I came to Brownsea, the ferry that was bringing people over and back again was a company, the name I can't remember, but they were yellow ferries with pictures of red squirrels on them. This year it seems that the ferries are being run back and forth by a different company called Greenslade. So we bought the tickets at the booth in Poole Harbour and got the ferry across. Once you land on the island, there is a trailer service for campers. So you load your gear into the trailer and it will be taken to the campsite for later that same day. So I kept my camera equipment with me, of course, but put everything else onto the trailer. So from where you arrive on the island, it's about 20 to 30 minute walk to the campsite. We picked up our camping equipment, have set up our tents. I'm going to give you a quick tour of the campsite and then we're going to head off to explore the island because it's now after 5 p.m, so the day visitors will have gone. So let's go. Okay, so this is what they provide when you arrive. So you have a kettle, water container, ice packs that you can replace with colder ones once these are defrosted, and they're in a freezer in the reception. And then there's a box full of cooking utensils, pots, etc. Okay, so this is the example of a communal cooking area. There are a few of these dotted around. You can't make your own fires here, so you need to use this, which is gas, and they provide a fire lighter. As well as bringing your own tent, which is what we did, you can hire a tree tent if you don't want to carry a tent here and set one up. And then you can also hire these sort of belt tents. They're more expensive, obviously. There's a few of those dotted around as well. And later in this video I will show you around the tree tents and how they work, as well as inside one of the bell tents. that is obviously the shower and toilet area, and then this is a snack wagon, campsite reception. Washing up area and toilets. There is some drinking water here to access the site. I think it's fair to say that Brownsea is known for having a population of the UK's native red squirrels, a variety of waders, sika deer, and introduced peafowl. 2 peacocks seem to live around the campsite, sleeping atop some of the buildings there or grazing around the tents. Indian peafowl is an introduced species in the UK, originally from the Indian subcontinent. They were brought to Britain centuries ago as ornamental birds. After sorting out the camp side of things, Dad and I headed west around the island coastline until we got to one of the beaches, which is where we can see a glimpse of the island's past. So we are on the western side of the island this beautiful sunny evening, and on the beach that is filled with remains of pottery, and that's because in the mid 1800s Colonel William Waugh, I think it is, I'm not sure how you pronounce the surname, tried to industrialize this part of the island. He set up a pottery works here using local clay. However, it didn't last long, as it turned out that the clay wasn't suitable for ceramics. As well as pottery remains, there are also a lot of very beautiful shells scattered all across the beach here. After this, we headed back to the east side of the island where the ferry runs to and from, so we could spend a bit of time at the lagoon from the Avocet Hide. It's the evening now, it's starting to go dark, and I have come to the Avocet Hide. As you can hear, probably, it's extremely noisy. There are a lot of black-headed gulls, mainly. There's also some terns, shelled up, and in the distance there are some other birds, but they're quite far in the distance, so I'm struggling to see what they are. Very noisy here, lots going on, lots to look at. I will be making a bird watching video so that I can show more detail of the birds that we saw on the island if you're interested. In that video, I will show a lot more of the birds' behaviours and talk more about each of the bird species present on the island. As we walked back to the campsite at dusk, we were able to spend some time watching a herd of sika deer, which was a great end to the first day on Brownsea Island. Good morning. It is the next day after a very stormy night at the campsite. We set off fairly early to visit the Tern Hide first, where we watched a lot of black-headed gull activity, and now at the Reed Bed Hide. The walk to this hide I particularly liked, boardwalk across very marshy ground. And it's just a really beautiful view from here. You can see a lot of the gulls flying around in the distance, and then there's some Canada geese just in front, as you can probably hear. So the hides are empty at the moment because the day visitors haven't yet arrived, which is obviously one of the bonuses of staying on the island. Okay, so I am back at the camp now, and I thought that I would take a bit of time to share with you about the history of Brownsea Island, because it has got a very interesting history. So it was in 1530 that Henry VIII took ownership of the island and built a castle here. In 1726, it was bought by a botanist who planted a variety of trees here. As I mentioned when I was on one of the beaches, William and Mary Waugh bought the island and they built a pottery here. They also built a village here. So I showed you the beach, which had some of the pottery on it. They thought that the clay here would be a rich source of china clay, and they invested a lot of money in building the pottery works and employing over 200 people, only to find out that the clay was only good for building pipes, sewage pipes and bricks. And they fled to Spain in 1857, owing £650,000, which is the equivalent now of £50 million. Then in 1870, a Hon Cavendish Bentinck bought the island and improved the agriculture here. In 1896, a fire destroyed the castle here, which was then rebuilt. In 1901, the Van Rolt family started a daffodil industry here. In 1927, the reclusive Mary Bonham Christie bought the island and let wildlife take over here. In 1934, a fire broke out on the island and raged for 7 days and nights here. In 1940, it was used as a decoy to protect surrounding towns in the war. And then in 1962, the National Trust took over ownership of the island. And now the National Trust, the Dorset Wildlife Trust and John Lewis manage the island in partnership. And that is a brief history of the island. Of course, there's a lot more detail and information about all of that and about the history also dating further back than King Henry VIII. But it's got a very interesting history, so I just thought I would share a little bit of it. So I mentioned before that there is the option to stay in a tree tent here, which is something that I'm considering for the future, and I thought you might be interested in seeing what that involves in case you're thinking about coming camping on the island. So these are a couple of the tree tents. The hammock looking thing underneath here is for storing belongings, and then to access the tent you climb up into it. So you can see there's a zip there. I'll unzip it. It's quite dark though. I'll try to show inside. So I put a lantern in so you can see better. This is what it's like inside. Storage pockets on the side. So yeah, I mean obviously it's very sturdy. Actually it looks very comfortable if you don't mind sleeping in something like this. And this is one of the others. As you can see, it's a lot lighter in this one with the green cover rather than the black. And also it's worth mentioning that in the middle of each of them is a strap, so you'd have to sleep one side or the other. So we were actually the only people camping at the time we went, and the campsite manager was very helpful and let us have a look at the other camping options. There are also houses you can stay in. Of course, there is a night ranger and people do live on the island, but on the east side of the island. So when we were walking around in the evenings and early mornings, we really were alone. As well as the snack wagon I showed before, there is also a cafe also on the east side. So we're just on Heathland Walk and we're heading to Red Squirrel Walk, so we can hopefully see some red squirrels in this beautiful evening light. And it's absolutely stunning and we haven't seen another person. So yeah, wildlife lovers' dream. There are 5 squirrels running around this morning. You can see one in the background of this. Food supply is plentiful on the island at this time of year, so they are very busy collecting food and caching. The squirrels in the area behind the church are quite tame. They're used to obviously lots of visitors passing through, and there are no predators on this island, so they're very safe. Of course, there are no grey squirrels here on the island, which is how the red squirrels can survive here. So a good time to see the squirrels is early morning and late afternoon, which is another bonus of obviously staying here. Also, this area where we are now does get quite busy during the day, well, at different times when people come to try and see the squirrels here. I'm literally just watching one right now. They are such charming little characters and always up to something, lots of antics to watch. So yeah, really enjoying observing them. And on this morning I experimented with my GoPro, placing it in various spots to capture a range of angles as the squirrels played and explored. So we have just left the squirrels, even though it was very hard to leave them, and now we're going to head to the Avocet Hide and possibly one of the other hides before the day visitors arrive. So we're in the Avocet Hide now, and there is one avocet right out in the distance. So I've got a couple of shots of that. I can't see any others at the moment. Lots and lots of gulls and a few shelduck around. Brownsea Lagoon is one of the best places in Britain apparently for watching waders, including curlew, avocet and spoonbill. We're now in the Tern Hide and there are some sandwich terns on one of the small fenced off islands not too far from the hide. So I'm getting a bit of footage of that, and it's also really interesting to observe it. New for 2025, there is also an observatory on the island which is called the Lookout and serves as a daytime wildlife viewing point overlooking the lagoon, as do the hides. It's a nice introduction to the island and a dry, warm place to observe the lagoon from, but not ideal for photographing or filming because of the glass windows, as you can see with this Avocet footage. Brownsea Island is actually the birthplace of scouting. In 1907, Robert Baden-Powell held the first ever scout camp here, bringing together 20 boys from different backgrounds. They cooked over fires and learnt outdoor skills, and that one camp started what would be a worldwide scout movement. This memorial stone marks the site of that original camp, and people still come from all around the world to visit. So to my left is the pottery pier. We're following the Scouting Maryland walk at the moment to join up with the calming Cambridge Woods walk via the ruins of the Maryland village. And I showed you some of the village ruins footage when talking about the history of the island, so let's go to the Cambridge Calming Woods walk. This is probably one of my favourite places on the island. The walk includes signposts with information about how to practice forest bathing, which is a Japanese practice that involves immersing yourself in a forest environment to promote physical and mental well-being. I'm not sure how busy this walk gets in the daytime, but we had it to ourselves, so we could really appreciate the peacefulness and listen to the forest sounds. A large part of the island is a designated quiet area for wildlife, and visitors are therefore not allowed in this area. The Cambridge Calming Woods Walk skirts this area, as does the Heathland Walk, and as we headed back along this, we saw more sika deer. On the final morning, we decided to head to the squirrels one more time via the lily pond. We also saw some more sika deer, this time in the daylight, a great spotted woodpecker, and had a surprise but very sweet encounter with some ducklings. I really hope you enjoyed sharing this wildlife, history and camping adventure with me. Dad and I were blessed with beautiful weather and some unforgettable wildlife encounters. It's been such a privilege to experience Brownsea's quieter side, where the island feels truly alive with the rhythm of nature and creation. With so many species to discover and each season offering something new, there's still much more to uncover on this incredible island. More wild moments, hidden corners and untold wonders waiting to be explored. Thanks for joining me on this adventure. Please do support my channel by liking and subscribing, and I will see you in the next video.